Some of you guys were here last week, and we got to talk about health and posture and why it's important to care for your posture and where we're going as a nation, unfortunately, in healthcare. But today's going to be a little bit different. We're going to throw a little curveball. We're live, too, right now on Facebook. Say hi to Facebook. Hi, Facebook.
Hi, Facebook.
But each of these workshops that we put together, there's a purpose behind it. And it's to educate you so that you could do more and become healthier throughout the rest of your life. So every single week we're going to have a different topic. Well, not every single week, because sometimes we repeat a topic. But the purpose of it is to educate you and keep you informed of how to become the healthiest that you can be. So this week we're throwing a curveball and we're talking about emotional health. Because not only does physical health or physical stress affect your overall health, but so does your emotions. So does what you put in your body every day. We gave you all a snack before we started this, but it's a healthy snack. We didn't give you potato chips. We didn't give you, Doritos. And we didn't give you something that's bad. We gave you a healthy snack. Because what you put in your body is as important as what you're physically doing on a regular basis and what you're thinking about. So, is there anybody in here that has a little bit of emotional stress? Come on. Everybody needs to raise. Because every single person goes through some sort of emotional stress. Whether it's a major stress like depression and dealing with unfortunate deaths in the family, work stresses, etc. So those are the major stresses. You got your minor stressors like you're in traffic and you don't like traffic. It's still a stressor, and it's how your body reacts to it that's what makes us different person to person. So we all have some emotional stresses. Anybody in here have a goal? Could be a small goal of I want to be healthier to a big goal is I want to make $1 million. We have goals, right? Okay. Has anybody reached all the goals that you want to reach? No, because we have more goals. So the big thing is, what is stopping you from reaching that goal? Does anybody want to share a goal of theirs and what maybe is making them feel stuck? Who here has a goal that they want to reach that maybe they're not reaching? Go ahead.
I have a goal.
Okay.
My goal is to become 100% physically normal as I see it.
Okay. And is there anything that you feel is blocking you from reaching that goal?
Yeah.
And what is that?
The neurons in my brain regenerating themselves in order for it to do that.
Okay. And you can do that though with regular repetition of doing that. Okay.
And also through meditation, and more importantly, learning each and every day about how the body can self-regulate itself.
Smart man. Any quick history on him? Do you mind sharing your story?
Yeah.
Like a brief though, not an hour? Brief story?
Brief story, real simple. I was paralyzed from the head down from 2012 and was told by leading Kessler physicians and also to the Veterans Administration system that I would never walk again. I would have to be put into a nursing home. I suffered a stroke in my brain stem. They weren't even sure why I was alive, but I know. I decided point blank, as much as I had gone through in the early part of my life, and as many successes I had, that I wasn't going out this way. I was going to find out that first and foremost, it wasn't anybody's fault but my own, because I knew nothing about myself. And so I decided, I got myself into this, I'm going to get myself out, and the first thing that I need to do is to find out about my body and start paying attention to what I put in my mouth.
Awesome. So he's got quite a story, and there's people around the world that are similar to him that may not have the same mindset as him, because Facebook may not be able to see it, but he walks fine. He might have a little bit of things that are not perfect, but he talks fine. He's fit. He helps people in his lives be fit. So this guy's a changed man because he had a stroke, and unfortunately that's changed the path of his life, but it was for good reason, and now he's doing the best to become the strongest you can be. So your mindset is stronger than a lot of people out there, though, unfortunately. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how our mind can play tricks on us. So, I've got a dream. We've all heard that before, right?
That's right.
Who said it?
Martin Luther King.
He's a smart man. So we all have dreams. The question is, what's holding you back from your dreams? So, if you think about it, what are some things people say that block them from reaching their goals? Let's say I want to lose weight.
I can't.
I can't. That's the most basic one, is I can't. Well, you realize that when you say you can't do something, what happens?
You don't.
You don't do it. You're literally telling yourself you can't do it. So the words that come out of your mouth actually play a role in your life. So even just changing the I can't, or I won't, or I don't know how, you change that to I can, I will, and I will learn how. Just changing that already gives you a new sense of confidence, right? It's so much different to say, oh, I can't lose weight, to I will lose weight. I just got to figure out how. Totally different the way it is. So what you say every day about yourself is really driving the pace of your life. Some people have this mentality that they're not smart enough, they're too old, they're too young, they're not strong enough, they're too weak, they don't know how to do something. I mean, you could literally come up with 8,000 excuses on why you're not doing what you're doing. But all of those are what we call limiting beliefs. It's a belief in your brain that's limiting you from going to the reaches of the top of the goals that you have. You know, because what is the difference between these multi-billionaires that are running huge companies to you and I right now? They're really not humanly different, but their mentality is different. They have a mindset that I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it successfully. They're not sitting there, you know, in front of their computer with their 5,000 employees and be like, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to do today. I don't know how to control this. I don't know how to do this. I don't want to do this. I can't do this. They just know what they want to do, and they're going to do it. But too many of us live in a world where we unfortunately talk ourselves out of being successful. We tell ourselves we can't do it, and then all of a sudden we can. So, is there anybody that wants to share besides this young gentleman, anything that they're working on or they're trying to work on that is not working and how they're potentially holding themselves back? Anyone want to share? Because you can even just say the way you talk about how you describe it. Anybody? Or is it going to be a shy group?
Well, I'm trying to lose weight myself.
Okay.
And similar to the gentleman over here, I'm learning that you have to learn about the body.
Mm-hmm.
And what I discovered was intermittent fasting.
Okay.
And I've done this before, but under different guys like the master cleanse, which works temporarily.
Yeah.
But after you get off the fast, the weight comes back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to normalize the burning of calories, if you will, so that I stabilize once I get to my normal.
Yeah.
So I'm still discovering.
Yeah, there's definitely some great research out there talking about intermittent fasting, and I don't want to go too much into a nutritional talk
I understand.
because we are staying on an emotional
But
track.
it's a mental thing.
But yeah.
The clue was hunger, or what the perceived hunger. And the thing is, I know I can do the master cleanse once you get into it. I was wondering if I could do the intermittent fasting, and said, oh, once you get over that hump, it's doable.
Yeah. What was stopping you from succeeding in the fast?
The thought that I was hungry.
The thought that you were hungry.
And I'm not hungry. But
It's
I'm
a
not
habit.
starving.
It's a habit. We all think certain things. I mean, you're not a large man, but I can see I can see what you're talking about, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, but the big theme, what you're saying is, you said one thing you were trying to say is that you are going to gain the weight back if you stop it. That's a big thing when it comes to dieting and bringing down weight. Is you actually don't want to do what we're calling diets. You actually want to change your lifestyle. And your lifestyle of what you're putting in your body every day is what becomes your diet. So diet is not a temporary thing that you're doing to lose weight or to be successful in whatever goal you're trying to get to.
Right.
It's actually to become healthier and change your diet forever. And then once people do that, and if they don't look at it as a temporary fix, but a full-time, quote-unquote, job, then all of a sudden, all of their things start to happen.
Right.
So it's more of a lifestyle we got to look at rather than a momentary, I want to lose 20 pounds, so let me do this. So, but let's move on. I want to stick on the same course that we're going on. So, the biggest thing that holds us back is fear. We all have it. You have fear that can range from the fear of rejection, the fear of not being loved, the fear of not being successful, or the fear of failure. God, couldn't get it out. You can have you could actually have the fear of being successful, because if you're so successful, well then what the heck am I going to do? How do I handle it? What happens if I have all these people coming to me for help and stuff like that? So all of these fears hold us back, or at least drive us away from what we want to do. But there's two that are huge. Please don't look at the board because it's right there. But there's two of them that drive everything about us. What are those two? Actually, it's not there. I'm sorry. What are those two? I thought I put it up there. What are the two main things that we think about that hold us back from everything that we want to do? There's two major ones.
Fear of change.
Okay. It's not that one, but that's another one.
Failure?
Fear of failure. That's up there. So if it's up there, it's not the answer.
Okay.
Do I have it here? I don't. Sorry. Okay. So the first one is the failure. I'm sorry. The failure. The fear of not being good enough.
Inverse.
The fear of not being good enough. How could that represent in your life? How could you think you're not good enough?
By always comparing yourself to others.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we have a fear that we aren't good enough. So that could be, you. What's a good example? I mean, I could use one for myself. So a lot of times, if my mother or my sister tell me what to do, because they like to do that, they're a nice Italian family that like to tell you everything they want to do. I sometimes take it as, well, I'm not good enough. My thoughts or my goals for what I'm trying to do at that moment are not good enough, so they're trying to come in and they're trying to fix it. See how that could change that? So just because they're trying to help maybe give a different perspective, because everybody has different perspectives of life, our life is different because of our perspective of life. So some have a good perspective, some don't have a great perspective. But they're just trying to give me a different perspective, but as the person on the other end, they could take it as, well, they're not good enough. So if they're not good enough, well then they're going to react in a way that might be an attack. Because you're telling me I'm not good enough, I'm going to come back at you and I'm going to fight you. And that's how we get really testy with some people in our lives. You see how that could work? So number one is the fear of not being good enough. So if you're not good enough, this is where the second fear is. There's another deeper fear. If we're not good enough, well then the other fear is we're not going to be loved. So that's the second fear we have. And these are fears that we built up inside of us. Guess when we got those fears? Guess when because we all have it. It represents in some way of your life. We all have these fears. You can't get away from them. It's how you react to those fears. But guess when you start to have those fears? When you're a little kid and you're 4 or 5 years old and something happened at that age. Let's say, you're in school, you're in middle school, or not middle school, elementary school, and you got your grades back from your class, and you got a 90 on a test. And you go to your mother and father and say, look, Ma or Dad, I got a 90 on my test. What's their reaction? Why didn't you get the 100? Now all of a sudden, something in their brain says, well, I got the 90, I thought that was good. So I guess since I didn't get the 90, I didn't get the 100 and I got the 90, I'm not good enough and I'm a failure. Now all of a sudden you have this little kid walking around that has this inner fear, insecurity that they're not good enough, because if you're not good enough, quote unquote, for your mother or father, well, those are people that are supposed to be the closest to you. So if you're not good enough for them, well, then everybody in your life isn't going to be good enough. See how that crazy one mind trick that you can say when you're a child, and that's something that isn't even aware. Like, we have things that we know, Then we have things that we don't know. Then we have things that we don't even know that we don't even know. These are things that most people don't even know they don't even know until somebody like myself, or somebody that has a more specialized psychology degree, might point out. They might ask you certain questions. When was the first time that you had this feeling? And you start digging into your life, and well, my mom one day told me that I didn't get 100, I got a 90, so it wasn't good enough. So in my mind, I'm just using an example, but that's where it starts, and then that's how you have these insecurities. So whenever we have a point in our life when we're feeling like we can't do something, if you dig a little bit inside, you probably have that fear of, I'm not good enough, or I'm not going to be loved. Because if we fail at something, quote unquote, because failure is actually not real, you can throw that crap out. Failure just means that the actions that you took at the moment weren't successful. But it doesn't mean you're a failure as a human being. Can you see that? So failure is just that your actions could have been a little different. But a lot of people can equate in their brain failure as not being good enough. If you're not good enough, well, then the people in your lives, you're going to feel unloved. So you can almost look into your life and see what areas that you're struggling with, and put some of these thoughts in your brain. Well, is there a possibility that I think in my brain that this moment could cause me to feel like I'm not going to be loved or something like that? So these are the type of things that we think. So let's take a step away from the fear, because that fear conversation we could have probably a weekend talk about. But you got to realize every insecurity that you have is just an inner fear that a little 5-year-old told you. You just got to figure out what that fear is at the moment. And once you realize that it was a little 5-year-old that was pissed off, that said it to yourself, and it's not actually a real thing, well, then now you could say, well, wait a minute, I'm not a failure. I'm actually a huge success. And I'm really strong, and I could do this. And all of a sudden you change that inner chatter in your brain, that inner chatter of, I can't do it, to now all of a sudden I can do it, and I will do it, and I'm strong, and I'm this. And it literally changes your world. Which brings me to my next point, is focus. Because there's a quote that one of my favorite people, Tony Robbins, said. He said, where focus goes, energy flows. So where your mindset is, energy is going to go there, and it's going to bring that in your life. So for instance, if you have a positive outlook on life, you're more optimistic than most people, and if something bad happens in your life, you look at it as, oh, that was just a learning experience, I could learn from that. When you have that mentality in life, the world just starts to give you more positive things. Have you ever noticed people that are happier tend to have good things happen to them? When they're down and depressed, they usually have more of a duller life coming at them. So on the opposite end, if you have an outlook on life that you're really down and depressed, and you can't do anything right, and everybody in their life hates me, and blah, 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 well, all of a sudden, that type of energy is going to bring more of that around you, because you're focusing on the wrong thing. So the most important thing is you got to say to yourself is, in every area of your life that you're trying to change, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the action steps that need to be taken to improve? Or are you focusing on all the negative things that are occurring during that moment? Because it's very, very easy for us to sit there and beat ourselves up and say, this is not working, this is not working. If this goes wrong, well, then all of a sudden this will happen. So we have a lot of great chatter that tells us that we can't do it. But how many of us are just saying, you know what, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to write a list of all the action steps that I'm going to do, and then just do it, and throw all the garbage out of your head. Because it literally is all garbage. It's all a bunch of stuff that we're all wired to have. We're all wired to have these thoughts in our head. Because it's just, we live in an instinctual world. Our instincts are to protect, right? If you go to the most basic instincts inside of us, if we were all in a dangerous situation, we would try to figure out how to survive it. That fight or flight that we all deal with. So the most important thing is figuring out what are you saying about yourself in that situation. That makes sense? Anybody now that we're kind of bringing up some of this stuff, anybody have an area of their life that are starting to see like, oh wait, I am beating myself up about this, or I am telling myself that I can't do it. Is there anybody who wants to be brave? Or no? It's all right, I understand. Nobody likes to share their stories. But the things that are stopping you from sharing your stories is, what if I sound stupid? What if I say something that doesn't make sense? What if you know, what I'm telling you is, you know, going to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about? It's the inner chatter that stopped you, because really, if you didn't really care about the inner chatter, you'd be like, of course I want to change something in your life. I want to change stuff in my life. Yes?
And I saw an example of that today, right here.
Okay, right here.
Right
Okay.
here. What's the difference between a child and an adult
Okay.
when they deal with others? The child is going to have no fear, say what it wants, do what it wants, whenever it wants.
Mm-hmm.
With a human being, after they get a certain age, how are they going to think of me?
Mm-hmm.
What are they going to think of me?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? That's what we lost.
Yeah.
Who cares what they think of you?
It's true. I mean, we have so much. You literally, if you just wrote down every single thought that you had and just compare them, I guarantee you would laugh at some of the things you're saying. Like it's just amazing how much we just literally sit there. Like, I mean, I've been in your situations. I've been in talks, you know, or in seminars where they want participation. And the first thing that always comes in my head is, I don't want to sound stupid. Or I don't want to, you know, I don't want to sound like, you know, I'm trying to, you know, be cooler than I want to be or something. Like, all those things start to pop in my head. And then guess what? I don't raise my hand and participate. But guess what happens when you participate?
Others.
You learn and you grow.
Absolutely.
So I'm not saying every single person needs to share, but what is stopping you from sharing is that inner chatter. Just so you're aware of it. So the thing is, you want to look at what you're focusing on. Then you want to look at what is that thing that you're focused on. What are you making that mean? Because that's the biggest thing. So if you're annoyed or pissed off at something, you got to go a level deeper. So you get in an argument with your spouse, or your mother, or your father. Literally back up a step and say, let me get away from the conversation and say, all right, because that person said that to me, what am I making that mean about myself? When you take that step back and ask that question, all of a sudden things just start popping in your head. You know, because there usually is going to be that aspect of maybe the fear of not being loved, or the fear of failure, or the fear of rejection, or the fear of not being good enough. It's usually there when you have these type of things, but we get so caught up into our brain or our mind that we think that we know that what we're thinking is actually the correct thing. But when you take a step back and say, well, maybe what's up here isn't correct at the moment, what am I making that mean? Does that make sense, everybody?
Mm-hmm.
You always want to see why is it getting you upset? Because did you ever notice that one person can say the exact same words to you and from another person, but you could get a different reaction to it depending on who that person is? And it's based on what you see that person as. So for instance, mothers and fathers, in the eyes of their children, could sometimes be seen as annoying, right? Or they're trying to control me. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I have parents, so I know what it's like. So there's people that out there that, let's say you were my mother, and I had a perception of you that you're trying to control me, and you, all you want to do is just fix my life. Because that's what a lot of mothers try to do, is help. So if you said to me, let's use an example, you know, blanking out an
Good example?
You know,
How about eat those vegetables on your plate because they're good for you?
There you go.
You don't like them.
There you go. So eat those vegetables. The vegetables are good for you. Now me as your son, who looks at you as a perception that you're trying to control me or annoying, I could react in a very explosive way. Why do you keep telling me that I have to eat these vegetables? I know I have to eat these vegetables. Now all of a sudden, that trigger, there was that trigger because of my perception of you. Well, now we could go, let's say we go to a nutritionist who is supposedly the expert of nutrition. I'm not saying nutritionists are not experts, but I'm saying, like, you go to somebody that's outside of the realm of your family, now you're going to an expert. So now you go to the expert who you have a perception of, wow, this guy knows what they're talking about, or this woman knows what they're talking about. They say the exact same thing. You should start eating more vegetables. Oh, you know what, you're right. My mom says that to me. But did I explode? No, because my perception of who I'm talking to is different. So your perception of who you're talking to drives the emotion. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you have to look at what perception you have of the person you're addressing. Because there are people in our lives that we get pissed off at. I mean, everybody gets mad in some way. You got to look at what about that person is getting you mad and why. Because underneath that is not what that person is saying, it's what you're making it mean what they're saying. So you're telling me that I have to eat more vegetables as my mother. It makes me think that you think I'm not good enough, and so I get this fear of, wait, I'm not good enough, I don't know I have to eat vegetables. And then this fear comes up, and that fear comes out as anger. Mm-hmm. Can you see how that happens?
Yeah.
All because of perception. So when you change your perception of something, all of a sudden your life can totally change. It's just a matter of getting that perception changed. So yeah, so you want to look at where you're focusing at, you want to look at what you're making that mean, and then you want to look at what are you going to go to do about that. So you're trying to lose weight, and you reach a plateau. You know, you can't lose that weight, and you reach that plateau. And all of a sudden you start saying to yourself, I'm a failure. I can't do it anymore. You know, I guess my body's just not meant to, you know, lose any more weight, or I'm not doing it right, I don't know what I'm doing. Now all of a sudden, you say to yourself, what am I making that mean? So you just said it out loud, I'm a failure, I don't know what I'm doing, etc. Now what are you going to do about it? Are you going to live in that world, or are you going to change your actions to improve that situation? Because we can live in the world, of, I give up. I can't do it. Or you can change your current actions, because your current actions are what's not allowing it to get to the success you want it to be. So all you got to do is figure out what is the action steps that you need to take that are going to improve that. Okay? So look at what you're focusing at, look at what you're making it mean, and then look at, after you know what it means, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to live in that world, or are you going to change that world? So, and then here we go, change your language, because your language is everything. And we actually started to do this, but think about who you are. Like, think of yourself in the most successful moment of your life. They may have a moment in their life that they're so proud of, they want to jump off the roofs and tell the world that they did this. Come on, somebody's like, man, we don't have a good group here.
No, I mean, seriously, I mean, honestly, the first time I moved my finger was like, I exploded.
Okay, so he's got a very unique story, obviously. He was literally not able to move his body. And the proudest moment he had at that moment was he moved his finger. Now just take a step back. What did that make you think about yourself?
Actually, I felt quite elated about what the power of my mind could do.
Yeah, so what was so elating about that? What did that, did that make you feel different about yourself?
That I could accomplish more.
So he can accomplish more, which means he can be more successful. But let's go a little level deeper. Is there anything else so obviously if you're paralyzed or if you're weak, you can have the perception that I'm weak, right? I'm not like everybody else, so I'm weak.
Yeah, but I didn't have that perception, because the second that I moved that finger,
you felt what?
I actually felt strong.
Felt strong. So now all of a sudden he has this new mindset that I'm strong. If you have the mindset that you're strong, you can pretty much do everything, right? And look what he created. He created what most doctors would say a miracle. But all he did was he changed his mindset, and he said, I'm going to take as much action as I possibly can to become the strongest that I could be. From being limp to now he's literally
230
and he's teaching people how to be that.
Okay.
All because he changed the way he looked at himself. Because before you had the stroke, I'm sure you did things in your life that you weren't compliant to where you are now.
No, I did things in my life, quite frankly, that were detrimental to me doing the things that I should have been doing in my life. But because, how I perceived my world, you understand, I thought that I was doing okay.
Yeah, and that's very limiting, first of all. So who likes comfort? Now, look at the participation. Holy Jesus. I got the most participation, everybody being comfortable. But yes, we all live in a world of wanting to be comfortable. But unfortunately, when you're in the world of comfort, is there growth?
No.
No. You're stagnant. You're literally, it's like being in a car and being in neutral. I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
But when you get outside of that comfort zone and you do something that you're not comfortable with, like participating in a talk like this, no, just kidding. But like doing something that you're like almost doing your biggest fear. You realize when you get over your biggest fear, that's one of the biggest times you're going to grow.
Yeah.
Because you no longer have that restricted mindset. So it's that moment that you have to look at yourself and see, am I just trying to be comfortable or do I want to grow in this moment? Because there's too many of us that live in a world of comfort. And when you're in a world of comfort, it holds you back. It does not allow us to get to the goals that we want to be at. So, unfortunately, comfort physically feels good, but it's not what's going to get you to the goals that you want to be. So, look, where I was going with that was, I want you to think about what you say about yourself on a regular basis. Not right now, but now that you've gotten some seeds put into your brain. Let's water those seeds over the next couple of weeks. And just start seeing, like, every moment that you're uncomfortable, or every moment that you may have an argument with a loved one, or an argument with a friend, or you're feeling like you're down. Start asking yourself these questions. In this moment, what am I making it mean about myself? Because any moment that we're in that fear, you're always thinking about how are you going to protect yourself. It might not make sense right this second, but when you start asking those questions to you, it'll actually start to happen. You know, and even just think of the words that are coming out of your mouth or in your head. You know, you might say to yourself, this is so annoying. You know, why is it annoying? You're going to say, why is this annoying? Well, it's annoying me because every time I try to do something, this person tells me this, and it gets me so mad. Why is it getting you mad? Because it makes me think that I don't know what I'm doing. Why does it make you think you're not? Because it makes you think I'm not smart. Why does it make you think it's not smart? Well, if I'm not smart, I'm stupid. Why do you think you're not stupid? Literally ask why every time, and it gets you deeper and deeper, because if you're not stupid, if you're stupid, quote unquote, well then what does that mean? You can't be successful. If you're not successful, you can't be good enough. If you're not good enough, well then who's going to love you if you're not good at anything? See how we could go so deep by literally saying, I'm annoyed. That's surface level, I'm annoyed. But what is that annoyance coming from, which is deeper, with this person makes me feel like I'm a failure. Or this person makes me feel like I'm not successful. Or this person makes me feel like I'm not being loved. But you just have to start listening to those words that are in your head, and the biggest question is, why is this making me blah, blah, blah? Or why do I feel this way? Because when you ever say why to yourself, you get a level deeper. Because there's always a deeper level to what you're currently thinking.
You know what, I think, Marco, just listening to that regression, it brings you all the way back to looking at yourself from a different perspective. Why don't I love myself?
Mm-hmm. And it usually is a little 3 or 4 year old that unfortunately told themselves they're not loved by their loved ones. Because it's not real. We live in a world of love. Okay, so let's play a game here. Think about tragedy, 9/11. So we live in this world, let's say New York. New York's very known for being very kind of standoffish, right? Mm-hmm. We're not very open and talking to everybody. But what happens when a tragedy occurs? A 9/11 occurs. What happens all of a sudden? Everybody starts coming together, and they start helping each other, and all of a sudden you've got your neighbor who you never spoke to a day in your life. Is everything okay? Did you see what happened? And all of a sudden, everybody starts to become friends and loved ones. Because we live in a world, and us as human beings are actually meant to love. We're not meant to hate. Hatred is all fear and a bunch of crap that's inside of us, or being taught the wrong, beliefs. But as a deep human, number one, we want to protect ourselves. So obviously you have to protect yourselves. But when we're able to protect ourselves and we're comfortable, we have to give to others. Because if you're comfortable and you're very successful and everything in your life is going great, well, what do you do next? You give to others. What do they say when you're on the airplane and there's a crash? Do you get the oxygen for your son or daughter, or do you get your oxygen for you first? You got to get yourself first, because so you're strong and ready. But once you're able to get yourself strong and ready, now you give to others. That's the type of world we live in. But unfortunately, there's so much junk out there in the world, and there's so much junk in our head that we lose that perspective. And then we have the perspective of negativity, well then more negativity comes our way. So change your language and that transforms all of your habits. Yeah, it's actually my last slide. Okay, cool. So any questions, comments, statements? Anybody want to be brave today? That was a lot of info.
Come on, everyone. Come on, come on.
This
I
could be
know
a
we
question.
got
It doesn't
some
have to be your
in
life. There are some people in here that I'm sure have a ton of questions. They just don't want to ask it. Are there anything on the Facebook by any chance?
There's people joining, but no
Joining.
questions.
Welcome. But yes. So, I mean, I hope that this made sense to you guys. I hope it didn't kind of just go, over your head. I mean, this is deep stuff, but there's not many people that are willing to go this deep, because when you go this deep, guess what? You get a lot of emotion. People can actually start crying when they get this deep. But guess what? Crying doesn't mean you're weak. How many people here think crying means you're weak? No. But there are some people that think if you cry, it shows weakness. But crying is just an emotion that gets more emotion out of you. So actually crying is a good thing. It's just like the same thing with our human body. Just think of physically. So when you're throwing up, is that a bad thing or a good thing?
Good thing.
It's a good thing. But some people out there actually think if you're throwing up, you're sick, quote unquote. And you have to go get an anti-nausea medicine. But your body is actually getting rid of something that's not supposed to be in it. Same with a fever. When you have a fever, your body's rising the temperature so that it kills off bacteria. But what people do is they get a medication or an aspirin and they lower that fever. So your body's always in a state of trying to be in a good balance or be in a good equilibrium. So crying is not a bad thing. Showing emotion is not a bad thing. Anger is not a bad thing. It's just what you do with that anger is what's most important. Are you going to use that anger and keep it inside of you, or are you going to use that anger and figure out why the heck am I so mad? And change the steps that are getting me to get that mad.
Yeah, because really it's nothing more than just energy in motion. Emotion.
Yes. Emotion is energy in motion. I like that. So where your focus goes, your energy is going to flow. So what you're focusing on is very important in your life. Then what you're focusing on, what are you making that thing that you're focusing on mean? That's layer number 2. Once you get to layer number 2 and you get the meaning of it, when you realize the meaning, throw it away, lock it up in your memory bank as this is a past, because your past does not dictate anything about your future. So you could have tried to lose weight 15 times in your life and realized that it's not happening. But that doesn't mean that for the rest of your life you're going to fail at, or you're not going to succeed at losing weight. So, but too many people say, oh, I tried it before. It didn't work for me. Or I've tried, the funny part is chiropractors. I'm a chiropractor, obviously. We hear it all the time. Oh, I've tried chiropractic. That stuff doesn't work. Well, no, you went to a chiropractor that wasn't effective for you. But we have tons of patients coming in here that are getting great results. So it depends on who you're going to. So that's a huge thing is your past means absolutely nothing about your future. So realize the emotions that you have, what you're making it mean, put it in the emotional garbage, throw it away, and now that you have a clean slate, you can stand there and say, okay, well, what can I say now, or how can I look at the world now to become more successful? If you've had the mindset of, I'm too old, I'm not strong enough, I'm too weak, I don't know how to do it, it's not going to happen to me, whatever that is, throw it away, and now just literally choose the opposite of what that was. So if you were saying to yourself that you're weak, well, no, say I'm powerful. How much more better of a feeling is it to say that I'm powerful versus I'm weak? Even just the words give you a little bit of boost of energy.
Yeah,
I'm powerful. We all are powerful. We wouldn't be able to live on this earth if we're not powerful. It's just a matter of realizing that. So, yeah, that's our air conditioner. That freaks people out. Yeah. So literally choose the words or choose the things that you want to become. So if you want to become strong, you want to become powerful, you want to become successful, tell yourself you are that. And then now live your life like that. And all of a sudden when you have that mentality and you don't have the mentality of all the other garbage, you start to realize that things just pop into your head. Actions pop into your head that you never thought about. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I never thought that I could go wake up 20 minutes earlier and go for a run. I never realized that I could choose a salad with chicken over a sandwich. I never thought about that. You know, I always just thought what I eat is what I'm going to eat. You know, but it all starts with the mindset that you have, and then all of a sudden growing from that. So I hope this is rewarding or enjoyable for people here. I know we had a quiet group, but that's okay. It's okay. I forgive you guys. It's all right. It's only the second. It's only the second wellness workshop. We're gonna have a ton more of these. So hopefully by like the 5th or 6th or 7th, we're doing well.
Good.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Peace out, Facebook.